What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, it's too weird to live, too rare to die. It's Desra.
I'm too weird to live? Oh, God. Okay, and sitting across from me, of course, is Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we sit around and we pull out a PlayStation VR game from the archives.
But it's old.
It's a little old. It's a little older than we're looking for. And we test it out. We see if there's been any improvements. We see if maybe it's worth your time to go back to. Or maybe if you've never played it at all, is it worth trying for the first time? That said, what game did we choose this week, Desra?
We're doing Polybius. Yeah, so this is like game of myth and legend, literally.
So Polybius is now available on the PlayStation Store for $15.49.
Yes.
Maybe the weirdest price I've ever heard of.
Which is not even close to the weirdest thing about this game.
You're exactly on the same page as me today, sir.
Yeah.
This came out May 9th of 2017. It's been quite a while now.
I thought it came out in October of 1981.
Well, so here's the thing. Can't really talk about Polybius without talking about two things.
Okay.
First, the myth.
Yes.
I'm sure you know all about the Polybius myth.
Yeah, so Polybius was supposedly a cabinet that came out around 1981 or so in the Portland area. Mm-hmm. It's the different stories are like, was there one, were there a handful, but there was definitely not more than like 3 or 4. Yeah. It was this cabinet that when it was out and released, it was massively popular and addictive, underline addictive. People would be waiting in line, lines out the door.
Like fighting each other over their turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Like literally
right.
fist fights or breaking out.
And not only that, bizarre government agents, men in black sort of folks, would come in and like take data out of the cabinets. The rumor being it was either some kind of like mind control experiment or at the very least a psychological experiment, something like that. People were reportedly hospitalized with this, like symptoms of like anxiety, hallucinations. You just name it, just anything wrong with the brain.
Amnesia, insomnia.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And supposedly, according to myth, according to legend, it was only around for about a month.
Yeah, and they all disappeared.
It's been pretty much proven. It's pretty much been debunked.
Well,
like any good myth,
there's
always room for believability.
Well, and not only that, so here's where like Des the skeptic guy actually lights a little fuel to the fire. There's actually a lot of reasons to believe, for people to believe this and actually think it's real. So there's an awesome podcast called Skeptoid, hosted by Brian Dunning. So this is my plug for him. Go check that out. This particular episode is actually kind of under his Patreon wall. He only has like the last 50 episodes for free, but you can read the transcript on the website. Basically, he did the research. There was a lot of weird stuff happening in Portland around that time.
I think there's still a lot of weird stuff happening in Portland. Have you ever met anyone from Portland?
Yes. Hi, Danny. But actually, there were a couple of hospitalizations all around the same weekend based on arcades. There was a kid who basically had done like a 30-hour like power marathon thing. Also, at around the same time, there were a bunch of FBI raids on arcades, because they were actually also places that drug deals and stolen goods were being sold too. So what you had with this confluence of kids getting sick around arcade games, and then a lot of like government-y sort of people going in, interviewing people and whatnot, all kind of at the same time as this myth about this mysterious box came out. So you have this perfect storm of, no, crap, I saw this government agent guy, and oh no, I know this guy who got sick. Boom, and becomes a real thing. Yeah.
And the other thing we need to talk about, if we're going to talk about Polybius, I think it's obvious, it's Jeff Minter.
This guy's my new hero.
Seriously. I mean, the number of games, and like you and I are old enough to have played a lot of these games back in the day. You know, like the games they listed for Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum. Like I was like, damn, this guy is like the founder. He's like the father of video games. F you, Nolan Bushnell.
Well, that's the thing. Like he is really as foundational to gaming as Nolan Bushnell, but he's so rarely known.
Yeah, he's very underrated as far as game devs go.
I mean, you do know you're playing one of his games if there are llamas or cows or any kind of ruminants. Oh yeah, or psychedelics. Yeah. Basically, if you turn on a game and like, what the hell am I looking at? Chances are he's involved.
Yeah, actually, let me just run down. I've got a mini list here.
Oh, dude. Really? Because we're
No, take a second. Grid Runner, Abductor, Matrix Grid Runner 2, Hellgate, Hoverbover, Attack of the Mutant Camels, good one.
Yep.
Revenge of the Mutant Camels, Return of the Mutant Camels. Oh, I had no idea there were 3 of those. Laser Zone, Mama Llama, Metagalactic Llama's Battle at the Edge of Time.
I was going to say I was hoping to get the full title.
That's a good one. Sheep in Space, Void Runner, and Iridus Alpha. Now, as much as I've played a bunch of those titles, I had to look them up, see screenshots, and be like, oh, wow, I played that one when I was a kid on the Commodore 64 or something. I didn't really get intimately familiar with his games until the ill-fated Jaguar era.
Yes.
And he really did make 2 of the best games on the Atari Jaguar, Tempest 2000 and Defender 2000. I've actually got both of them in the other room.
Yeah.
CIB.
And it's, we want to make sure we get the credit right on this. He didn't create Tempest.
No, absolutely not.
But what he did was update and amp it up 1,000% to bring it to the Jaguar.
Apparently 2000.
2000, yeah.
And then, of course, even more recently, just brought Tempest 4000. So there was this whole boy, we're really getting into the weeds here.
Yeah.
There was this whole like lawsuit and stuff because he made this game called TXK.
TXK, yeah.
And it was just too similar to Tempest. And even though Jeff Minter had worked on Tempest 2000, he didn't have the rights to it. Atari does.
Yeah.
So Atari tried to sue him, and the only version of TXK you can find these days is on the PlayStation Vita.
It's very much
underrated.
Yeah, the John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater kind of thing. I don't know if you. He
we're getting wicked in the weeds. Here we
go. He got sued by Columbia for sounding too much like Creedence.
Jesus.
Which is kind of a problem because
Right.
So yeah.
So, but he did. So then Atari, just to bring this full circle, Atari hired him, or hired his company, Llamasoft, which I think is just him.
It was really him and his mom, and now it's him and his partner.
I love everything about this guy. To make Tempest 4000 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
So full circle, here we are.
So, and it's important, like TXK. So we really don't want to go too much into like worshiping at the altar of Jeff Minter, although yes. But it's important, like these games are actually just all this progression. You can see bits and pieces of like, so this Tempest 2000 does this, and then TXK is kind of like the ultimate version of Tempest. And then there's actually a game we didn't mention, Space Giraffe for the Xbox 360, which was kind of his first like this generation sort of game, and you can absolutely see like the DNA of Polybius in Space Giraffe. And not only that, so even if you've never heard or played of any of these games, if you own an Xbox 360 and if you listen to music on it, you know his work. The visualization in Xbox 360 was created by Jeff Minter.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So now we could talk a little bit now about the actual game, Polybius proper.
Yeah.
Now, when this game came out back in May 9th, I reviewed it. Okay. In this, for the last year, basically, I've been saying, there's a couple games I overrated. Dext, Pixel Gear, How We Soar. Okay, a little overrated. Because we were kind of like in the dark days of PlayStation VR, and I was like maybe real excited to play a new game.
Well, this is the best game of all time isn't much if there's only been 2 weeks of games.
Exactly. So Polybius, who knows what happened here? But this is the one game I've been saying for a year that I underrated, and I actually I feel bad about it because when you do a deep dive into who made the game and then finding out just recently that it's been a year and the game hasn't turned a profit yet. It pulls a little bit your heartstrings, and you're like, man, I need to go back, re-examine this game, see just how wrong I was about it, because I knew I was wrong, I just didn't know how wrong. So this is me admitting that it's time to look at this game again. By the time this episode goes up, you will see the very first and only re-review I've ever done.
Wow!
And because I admit that I was wrong, and this game deserves a lot more attention than we gave it.
Did you hear that, Internet? You can be wrong and admit it. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't mind admitting it at all.
Yeah,
I like being wrong, and I love having an outlet like this where you and I can discuss just how wrong I was.
Yeah, so I went into this completely cold. Like when it was first announced, like, oh, that's a neat idea. I didn't really realize the importance of it being a Jeff Minter game. I just saw it. I saw a couple screenshots. Like, you know what? Des motion sickness. This seems like a perfect storm for that. So I'm going to put it on the shelf. But when Brian suggested we do it for this episode, it's like, all right, I'll give it a try. And man, this was an amazing experience. And for your motion sickness folks, not a touch of it, for me at least.
Yeah.
He does a fantastic job. And I read some interviews where they actually did a lot of game design to make sure that he could get the visual effect and onslaught that he wanted, but not trigger motion sickness. Which, if you can see, I mean, we've got some of the gameplay going there. This in VR, not causing motion sickness or speech impediments, is in and of itself amazing.
So, I mean, what kind of game is this?
It's a shooter.
It's totally a shoot 'em up.
Yeah, that's really all it is at the core. You're flying around these different shaped corridors, shooting at stuff, and trying to hit, in the early levels, these horns. Those are kind of your gates, but as the game progresses, the gates sort of change into different shapes and whatnot. But yeah, that's shoot stuff, don't get hit.
Go through the gates.
Go through the gates.
Yeah, and the gates are sort of a double-edged sword because the gates improve your multipliers, so you get higher and higher scores. But also they're like these huge speed boosts.
Yeah.
So like it makes it really it makes it so much more difficult to plan your actions, to see oncoming enemies, to see projectiles coming at you, to navigate to the next gate even. It's a double-edged sword. It's a whole risk-reward system because really I think there's 50 levels and the first 10 levels I think are pretty easy. If you don't want to go like real out of your way and stuff and like start like getting to the edge of the level and just in getting as many points as you want, you can kind of do a straight shot through the first 10 levels and skip a lot of the gates and not get a lot of points and just secure your way to the end. But then after like 10 levels, it's just it doesn't matter what you do. It gets real hard after that.
And also, I really want to kind of stress, like, I brought Space Giraffe up into it because this was Space Giraffe was his first test on video or visual onslaught as a game mechanic. And this is that in spades. Like, this isn't just trippy hallucinations. You're like, ooh, isn't this cool? Like, the fact that the visuals are so overwhelming are actually part of the game design.
Oh, yeah.
He's literally trying to kind of fry you with all this extraneous visual information. And the faster you go, the worse it gets. But there's also a way through that. There are audio and visual cues, like upon multiple repeated playings, you start to figure out what's important and what's not. What's all the kind of FUD trying to get your attention and what you need to focus on.
Yeah. And what you need to focus on is never particularly clear. Like the game doesn't tell you like a lot or almost anything.
No,
it's
you
like,
need to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one level, I think it was 11 or maybe 12, where all of a sudden these just kind of like arrows start floating up from the level floor. I'm like, okay, am I supposed to avoid those or not? So the first time through, I was like, well, I don't know what they are, so better be safe to avoid them. And I immediately crash into a wall.
Yeah.
Then you realize, oh, you need to fly into the arrows because they lift you up temporarily. But again, it doesn't tell you that these are a good or a bad thing. You just need to go through and play it and learn the hard way.
It's trial and error. And when you're watching someone else play this game who's done it a million times, it's like a work of art, man. It's like because your first time through, you'll probably die a couple levels in. But watching someone else do it and know what they're doing, it's pretty impressive. And we really didn't even talk. I mean, obviously it's playing behind this, but we didn't even talk about the art style. Like, this is 100% an homage to like 80s arcade games.
Yeah, so I've got a quote from him on the visual design specifically.
Nice.
I've been dabbling in lucid psychedelia for a while now, and maybe the time in the medium, VR, was right now for me to attempt a game to at least in part replicate the effects, if not the exact gameplay of that old legend, leaving out the bad stuff, of course. This comes from an article where he was talking about sort of claiming that he had actually played the original Polybius at a collector's warehouse. He's since gone on record and say, no, that was kind of just a joke, relax. But the idea was he's trying to catch you. Oh, and sorry. The game itself is fast, intense, but never upsetting, stressful, or unpleasant. I really don't like games that make you feel more stressed out when you finish playing than before you start. Despite all its speed and hyperstimulation, you actually find that in play, the game has a relaxing, even mildly therapeutic effect. Test subjects have described it as feeling like a nice session of meditation when they play. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think he's on something, because when you play this, at first it seems just so overwhelming. Where you're like, okay, first, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I'm just holding down the X to fire rapidly, right? And I'm shooting everything in my way.
And I'm moving left and right.
I'm moving left and right, but like there's so much crap coming at me that it's like I don't even know if I'm avoiding anything.
Yeah.
And then you're picking up power-ups that even though the words pop up on the screen, you're like, I have no idea what this is doing right now. Like, it's just, there's so much going on, but then eventually, like when you start hitting gate after 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 gate, it's just like you fall into this Zen state. And you're like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and like I swear to you, I played this game for 3 hours today.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think I blinked once.
Yeah, it's if you're familiar with sports, I mentioned being in the zone before.
Yep.
And this is definitely a game that is designed to get you to that point. And yeah, the first couple times you play, you're going to die immediately, or have no idea what's going on. But over repeated playings, again, I can't stress this enough.
Yeah.
You started to get a sense for the level. There is it looks like just random chaos, but it's not. There's an underlying design and intent behind everything in every level.
Yeah.
It's man, I cannot express enough how crazy this is.
Yeah, and even like technically, like under the hood, this thing is doing a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
This thing, it's running at 120 frames per second. If you happen to have a PlayStation 4 Pro, you can play it on your TV in VR or non-VR. But if you're playing it on a PlayStation 4 Pro, you can get 4K resolution, right? So it means that if you're not going to use VR, that's the obvious other way to play this. But 120 frames a second, I mean, I think that's phenomenal. And then there's the music. Now this is a game we say this probably every single episode, and if we don't, we probably should. Put on some freaking headphones.
Yes.
And because like this is it's part of like just isolating yourself from the world and like blocking out your vision, blocking out your ears, so that you can only see and hear what the game wants you to see and hear. And man, it just feels like you're someplace else for a long time. And this trance electronic music just puts you in that place that they want you to be in. Whew, it's intense.
But even with so here's what I love about this. Even with the high-end specs, even with the modern electronic music, everything about it screams retro gaming. The menus, the navigation. Like, okay, do you want to get to the next, the voices? But you fire it up and you die. Let's say you're on level 7, okay, and you die. Well, it drops you back to level 5, and it says hit up or down to go up 5 levels. And it's just these, weirdly archaic like font choices, even the fonts. I mean, this is, if anything else, it's just kind of actually driving here. This is what I realized. Imagine this is like an artifact from a parallel universe where technology advanced before game design did.
Yeah.
It's like VR and computers all get to a certain point, and then people started designing games.
That's perfect. That's a great comparison.
It's and that's exactly what this is. This is, or on the other hand, imagine if you took a game developer from 1980, picked him up, and dropped him into 2018. Well, that's what we have with Jeff Minter, and this is the game he made. It's really I don't know. It couldn't be more simple than that.
The great thing is that, like, they always say the best games are the ones that are easy to learn, hard to master. It doesn't get any easier than this, right? Because although they're not giving you all the rules and telling you all the information right up front, you're holding down the X button to fire and you're moving left and right. I got to say, at first I was like, why the hell aren't they letting me use the D-pad? Because it feels like such a D-pad kind of game. But man, that analog stick, after an hour, you're like, I can't imagine anything else but the analog stick. This is perfect. And you're just like, I was like flapping it back and forth like it was like like it was like a trackball or something in an arcade. Like, oh man. And so it's super easy to learn because of should we play rock, paper, scissors, slap?
Sure.
What was that?
That was, I don't know. Let's try that again. 1. Oh, I'm not left-handed.
Right on. Good slap.
Sorry.
First time we've ever done that on the show.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
At least once before.
Really?
Maybe it was the other show. I don't know.
But so easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah.
Right? And it really is. I feel like only by playing this game over and over and over and over again do you get further and further into the game. And on top of that, it's like they keep throwing different things at you. So it's like it's hard to master because you don't even know what you're trying to master until you've already died from it.
Right, and you think there'll be a level progression where, like, it starts out on this flat plane and then kind of a little curve, like, okay, and then eventually the next level is like, oh, it's a complete circle around, so you're circling around the inside.
Right.
And then the next level, oh, you're on the outside of that same one tube you were just in.
And then you get one that's like a slalom. You have to go on this side, and then that side, and then this side. Yeah.
Oh, the one, okay, one of the levels where these giant flags, okay, and I'm like, oh, all right, so I guess I just avoid those poles.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the slalom one, right?
Oh, that's the slalom one. And smash, I'm dying. I'm like, well, I avoided it. Why am I dying? Can I tell you, it took me 3 playthroughs before I realized the flag was pointing to the side you're supposed to go on.
Same.
Yeah, I'm a smart man.
But that's the thing, is that it's these simple, like, little design mechanics that make every level feel new. And even though the graphics are similar from level to level, each level feels entirely new and different.
No, there's absolutely different character to each, from the audio design choices to, I talk a lot about the visual barrage, but even that is different every time. Yeah. The color scheme is different. The type and speed of the things coming at you. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. So the game's not perfect. We do have to address a few little flaws.
Okay.
First, or at least the only one that's probably worth mentioning is that it needs to be patched. From everything I've learned, there's the platinum trophy is actually unobtainable.
Oh, okay.
Right. I don't know. I am not even close to getting the platinum trophy.
I wouldn't even imagine that's possible.
So please comment below if this is no longer an issue. I will definitely double check this before we air this episode. Okay. But there's 2 trophies that don't seem to ping when you're supposed to get them, which is one called Can't Touch This, which is where you do 5 consecutive levels without losing a shield.
It's doable.
Totally doable. And so the fact that it's not working is weird.
Yeah.
And the other one's called Curious. Try all 3 game modes, which is also very easy to do.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, as of today, I don't think that these trophies are obtainable, which means the platinum trophy is not obtainable. And on a game like this, where you get like super addicted to it and it starts taking up all your time, you want to be able to get that platinum trophy.
Yeah, I guess we'll ding it a little bit for that, but not too hard.
Not too hard.
Yeah.
No, but it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
And then and this was also featured in a 9 Inch Nails video.
Oh right, yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
The single was called Less Than, and they prominently featured this game in their video. Yeah, which is pretty damn cool.
I know it's
which makes it even more mind-boggling that this game hasn't turned a profit yet.
Yeah, no, that is a shame, and it's not like
it's all my fault, Des.
It's
all
fault.
my fault.
But we're trying to rectify it today.
We are
tonight
again.
Right.
I don't know. So what do you think, Des? Is it time to rate this sucker?
Yeah, we'll go for a rating. So number 1 is you have to buy this game. If you have a PSVR, it has to be in your library. Don't wait for a sale. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. 2, it's okay. If it's the kind of genre you really like, or if it's on sale, or if you have some extra cash, go ahead. It's not going to hurt you. And 3 is no. Do not buy this game. Friends don't let friends buy crap. We cannot reward these people for making this kind of stuff. So what do you think? 1, 2, or 3?
Did you ever play TurboGrafx 16?
Once or twice.
It's like my favorite video game console of all time. Probably because it's just so freaking obscure.
Because it had the long, skinny...
The Who cards.
Who cards.
Yeah, they look like credit cards, but they're games.
Yeah.
It's like I just want to play a card game with it. That's not the point. The point is like that
was the old show.
The best part of, the most prominent part of that TurboGrafx 16 game library were shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
And I love shoot 'em ups. Like I really do. I usually suck at them. Okay, but games like Blazing Lasers and Lords of Thunder, R-Type, Gradius, like these are like classic games, right? And they're games that have sort of been lost to time.
Yeah.
Right. Very seldom. I know they're out there. If you scan the PlayStation store, for standard PlayStation 4, I'm sure you can find a ton of shoot 'em ups. But there's not a lot. Or let's be fair here, really any. Not in this style.
Yeah.
For PlayStation VR. This is one of a kind game. We can talk about Res Infinite, we can talk about Thumper, that that have the same sort of like trippy visual thing going on, and they're also whatever. But this is in a league of its own. This is a very different game than anything I've played in VR ever, and it assaulted my senses like no game I've ever played.
Yeah.
It's a 1.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a 1. There's no other game like it on PlayStation VR, and just to prove my point, about 2 or 3 weeks after my original review,
okay,
I put Polybius on our top 10 list because it grew on me.
Yeah.
It grew on me post review. And this game is just as good now, maybe better than I thought it was then.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to say, like, something that is common in all of my tastes, like, for instance, music. There's not a genre I like or don't like.
Mm-hmm.
What I like is an artist who has something to say and is original and unique. Okay. So I don't like rap, but I like the Fugees and Wyclef. Okay. I don't like country, but I love Patsy Cline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I was wondering where you're going to go with that one.
Yeah, Frank Zappa. I was talking about him just before we started recording. This game, like, Jeff Minter is someone who has had a style and has had a unique voice for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 years of game design. And this, in a lot of ways, is kind of like the ultimate culmination of, like, if everything, you get the feeling that, like, everything he's done up to this point has led to this game. And he has absolutely stayed true to what he likes in games. And he's been bringing that as an independent developer for all this time. Yeah. This is hands down a 1, even if you don't like shoot 'em ups, even if you don't think you're going to like playing this game. This is kind of an important artifact to have. Its place in gaming history can't be overstated. Just its unique way of again, just that visual assault. This is a 1. If you have a PSVR, it's got to be in your library.
What did I say last week on Accounting Plus? Yeah. I said $11.99 is the magical price point.
Yeah.
Even if you don't really like the game you purchased, at least it wasn't that big of a risk. You probably got $12 out of your purchase, even if it wasn't that great. Well, this is pretty damn close. This is $2.49 or $2.40. I didn't do math right, but it's like a coffee more than my bottom dollar. And
I gotta say, I've never disagreed with you more than reviewing your first review.
Yeah.
And you said it wasn't worth the money. Like, dude, I spent 2.5 hours just getting to, like, maybe level 20, and I can't even imagine the work it's going to take to get to level 50. Yeah. This isn't a game. This is like my hobby for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. I don't mind admitting that I was wrong. This was a huge whiff, huge biff. Huge myth.
Yeah. Well, but maybe it was, again, bring it back to the Accounting Plus. Maybe you just, like, you weren't in the mood when you sat down to review it that day, and it just hit you wrong, and boom.
Yeah, no, I've got a million reasons, a million excuses as to why that review came out the way it did. Reasons. But also, this has been a growing experience. So doing without Parole has been a huge growing process for me. Learning how to review games, learning how much time to spend with a game before I issue my final verdict. Just because you always want to be the first one out there with a review. But you always want to be the first one out there with an accurate review.
Yeah.
So I learned a few things, a few bumps in the road, and my apologies for if I steered anyone away from this game. Hopefully now we're going to steer you back, because this is if this doesn't show up on our next top 10 list, I'll be surprised.
It's kind of funny. In a lot of ways, I feel like this should be like the Without Parole games game. Because, we started, or at least, I started with Brian on this channel talking about retro games and their influence on us and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then, like, PSVR came out and just sort of blew all that up. Yeah. And we don't really talk much about that anymore. This is the perfect marriage of both. This is as retro of a game as you can get as far as design style goes, but with a technology that is as cutting edge as you can imagine. It's us in game form.
Yeah, I'm a huge retro gamer.
We just need a horror element, and then you'll be.
If there's a horror element, I mean, it's pretty horrific, man. It's like, it's almost scary to play this game sometimes, because you're like, am I gonna have a seizure? I'm.
Yeah, actually, let's not make light of that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it does say in the beginning of the game, and I know you're gonna roll your eyes like, yeah, every game gives you the epilepsy warning. No, photosensitive epilepsy is a real thing, and if you're ever gonna get triggered by anything, you will get triggered by this game. Yeah. No question at all. So if you have any doubts at all, or you have experience with photosensitive epilepsy, you are the only person that this is a 3 for. Do not even think about firing this up. Okay. But yeah,
that's kind of it.
Right.
We've got I think our next 2 weeks of episodes planned. We know what we're doing for next couple episodes.
We should probably talk about that.
I should probably tell you. Yeah. But after that, our schedule's pretty wide open. So first of all, in the comments below, let us know what you think of Polybius. Did you avoid the game because of my review, and are you now more interested in checking it out? I can't wait to see how awful I've been. Also, like I said, we've got the next 2 weeks planned, but we've got our schedule is wide open after that. Let us know what other game you want us to talk about. You know, I love taking these deep dives into games. I love stopping my life for a minute, playing a game I wouldn't be playing, and then getting to talk about it, like every element of it for a half an hour with you. It's my favorite part of the week.
Aww.
All right. So that pretty much does it for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. For Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Desra.
And we'll see you next week.